From the very beginning, we wanted to have a business that would give us the freedom, the time, and resources to be able to raise our family. From the beginning, it was going to be based upon that, not on money, not on fame, not on getting any recognition or anything else, other than we wanted a business that would honor God, because we were going to pour into our kids. We were going to homeschool them, and we were going to raise them with our morals and our standards and from biblical principles.
So excited to welcome Scott Meyers, the original storage mastermind, self-storage investing, and Kingdom Self-Storage, his own self-storage company that he runs, and somebody, Scott, that I truly credit for helping my faith journey. So to have you come and join me on How Faith Fuels Your Business, a blessing for me. It was at your mastermind in Sarasota, Florida, back in February of 2024, that I really sort of got reconnected to my own search for faith in my life. So I want to say, first and foremost, thank you for that. Second, thanks for taking some time and coming and joining me to tape this segment.
Very kind of you, Thaddeus, and it's always my pleasure, as you know.
This segment is really a simple one. Cam Paptonat, who I always give credit for this because this was his idea of DXT Capital, called me up one day and said, hey, people are talking about their faith as it pertains to their faith journey and their family journey, but nobody really talks about their faith in a way of how they do their business. And I know this is something that's been critical to you and how you've set about what you've done. This is something you've talked about. So I really wanted to dig into, how does Scott Meyers integrate your very strong belief in Jesus Christ and the church with what you do in self-storage, both in your business of storage and then in the mastermind of storage as well?
Well, I think, first of all, Thaddeus, it's always, it seems to be the conversation is, well, how do you show up in church and how do you show up in business? And to me, that was always an odd question, but it still seems to be there. And that I never felt like you should operate differently. I think we talk about God, and we talk about our faith, we talk about Jesus, depending upon what your faith is, very openly at church, but for whatever reason, we're guarded in the marketplace. And we don't want to offend anyone. We don't want anybody to, I guess, these days come after us, or we don't want to lose customers because, what I found is that, this is the business that God has given me to steward. And so to keep him out of it, to not talk about him, just always seemed to be odd to me. And so I can't say it's always been natural at times, because that does ring true, and those thoughts go through the back of your mind, in mixed companies. But then I realized that it really doesn't matter. And if you really boil it right down, even if you disagree, or somebody disagrees with my spiritual beliefs and looking to do business with me, just read the book of Proverbs. Read anything that's in red letters in the Bible, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody in business that would say, "Yeah, I really don't want to do business with those folks." if I'm truly living out my faith in my business, that shouldn't be a bad thing. And so, I've over the years just become a little more unabashed and not really worrying about what people think about me, and just recognizing that from the beginning that God has gifted me this business, and we're going to honor him by making sure that people know that we are a faith-based company, and we don't live our life any differently in business than we do in church.
I love that. You were on my other podcast when we did now it's called Stories Behind the Door, but back it was called Defining Your Niche at the time, and talked about how you really got into self-storage because of you and your wife, when you first set out to make a living, had a very definitive plan about what that looked like. Talk to me a little bit about that and how important it's been in your journey of building the self-storage business.
Yeah, at the very beginning, it's from the very beginning, we wanted to have a business that would give us the freedom, the time, and resources to be able to raise our family. Those were things that were very important to us, and neither of our fathers really had the opportunity to do that, and that wasn't modeled very well for us. And so from the beginning, it was going to be based upon that, not on money, not on fame, not on getting any recognition or anything else, other than we wanted a business that would honor God, because we were going to pour into our kids. We were going to homeschool them, and we were going to raise them with our morals and our standards and from biblical principles, and also to be out on the mission field. In public school, and other people raising our kids with those value sets didn't seem to really match. So from the beginning, that's just been part of our DNA, is to be in a business that allows us to do that, but then also to go out onto the mission field and go all the way around the world, essentially with them. And that never would have happened had we not, really given that to him and given the credit for that. And I give my wife credit for that as well, as staying true to that from the beginning, saying, hey, this is going to be the foundation of how we build this business. And so that's really where it started from the very beginning, not just as leftovers and then all of a sudden finding faith later.
I love this about you, that you kind of put your body of work where your mouth is, right? So
Mhm,
when I go to your mastermind events, which I've been fortunate enough to be at to a few of them, two
mhm,
things that I noticed. The first thing I'll say is you have attracted a group of people. Not all of them share the same faith as you by any
mhm,
means, but people feel very comfortable sharing their faith. I mentioned Sarasota in
mhm,
February 2024 is James Reed
mhm,
putting a presentation on in front of the group who is very connected to his faith in that
mhm,
presentation, which I thought was
mhm,
fantastic. You've created a space where that's something
mhm,
that's allowed and even encouraged. And then, of course, prayer meetings at the mastermind, certainly not judging people that don't come to the prayer meeting,
mhm,
but making that something that's part of it. The other thing that jumped out to me about your mastermind is you front and center put your mission work on display and invite people to come and join you. I know you go down to Mexico once a year in November
mhm,
and build houses. Talk to me about how important that's been and how why have you made that central to what you're doing, even in the mastermind, which you
mhm,
talked about. Sometimes it can be easy in business to say, well, let me keep this separate so I don't
mhm.
offend anyone. You've done the exact opposite and leaned into it.
Yeah, that also is something that we decided very early on, both my wife and I, is that giving back is going to be a big part of what we do. You know, we went through financial troubles, which that is, very early on in our investing career, and we tithed our way out of debt. We tithed our way out of the mess that we had created, and that also the economy had thrown at us at the time as well. And we saw how that it worked. And so years later, when we went on our first mission trip, we were invited by a gentleman who really set the model for us, and he paid for us to go, our entire family, to go on a family friendly mission trip. And he did this with all of his staff, and he decided to do it with the school where our kids went to school together. And they came home all excited and said, "Hey, one of the guys at school, he offered to take us all on a mission trip. All we have to do is we just have to pay to get there, to fly there, and everything else is taken care of after that." And so we went on that mission trip, and we were wrecked, all of us, and decided that this is something we definitely wanted to do again. And then, yeah, I had an epiphany, if you will, not, certainly not an epiphany, but um, God said that you can do this. And I came home and told my wife that, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to tithe corporately on our profits. We're going to set aside 10% of our profits to see what God can do with that, and if He will allow us to go and do the same, and go figure. You know the story. We did. We began to tithe, and our business took off. And we started going on one trip a year, and then it was two a year, and then it was two trips a year, building two houses each time, and now it's twice a year, building four houses each time we go. And so we certainly can't outgive Him. And it was just an answer to that call that made us realize that this, even more so than business being your mission field, is so easily said, but to be able to give back to the kingdom by the efforts and the success that comes of it is something completely different. Truly just being open and being His hands and His feet, and then bringing others along and leveraging what we already had as a group of people that kind of believed in what we were doing. They trusted us, and they wanted to go do good in the world. And lo and behold, the ripple effects of taking these people on these trips changed their lives. But then also many of them have gone on to do the exact same things with their staff and friends and family and coworkers. And so all it was just that one person taking us, and then we paid it forward and continue to do the same. So we've seen it happen. We've seen what it looks like in real time, and it's pretty amazing what you can do when you get a body of believers together that have a mission or a cause, or really just any mission and a cause that benefits the kingdom. It's you can't stop us, and you can't outgive God.
Scott Meyers started this off by saying how blessed I feel to have gotten invited to. I came to, as you know, I came to your original mastermind back in February 2024, only as
Hmm.
a guest of Russell
Hmm.
Nursesoff and David Hansis, and count myself so blessed to have gotten exposed to what you're doing. Continued
Hmm.
success. Keep doing what you're doing and leading from the front and shining that light. So appreciative of you taking the time to come and share the story.
My pleasure. Anytime, Thaddeus. Good to see you.
The same, Scott. Appreciate it.